Hi guys, welcome to Delores Studios. This is another episode of Android Programming. This time we'll be looking at including an employee image into the employee directory application. If you are hitting the employee directory application for the first time, I will implore you to check on this link. After that, you can get back to this video. But if you've been following along since when we've been developing this employee directory application, I will implore you to let's get started. Right there in the boot Gradle, we need to include a dependency called the material dialogues, which will actually enable us to select either from camera or from the gallery that's been on the picture we want to take. So after this, you sync Gradle and you set your application ready. We'll head straight to the layout XML. We have the activity editor, the employee, the details, and the empty XML with the list item. But for this course of this tutorial, we'll only be making amends in the activity editor and the employee details. In the activity editor, we have included an image view with a button, an image view which depicts the profile image view with the layout width and height 200 dp, and a button to actually select a particular image. So we have that set appropriately. So if you can see, you have it right there in the layout. We still have other aspects of the code right intact. Let's get to look at the employee details. In the employee details, we need to introduce an image view to show the picture of the particular employee. Well, we have it as an image view right there with the width and height also 200 dp, and also we make it centralized and we assign some margin bottom to the image view so that it's actually going to sit perfectly. From here, we'll be headed straight to the Java classes involved. Firstly, we go straight to the data subpackage where we need to lock in the contract. We need to assign a column to this particular image because we don't have that right there in the DB at first. Right there, we need to include the column image, which is actually the contract of a particular employee. From here, we head straight to the DB helper. We need to make amends. If you are amending a DB and you have an application running, you can just increment to the DB. Probably you have a DB version of 1, you can increment to 2. But for this purpose, we actually leave that as it is. But we need to include the employee column image, which we have right there, over here, with a data type of blob and not null. So we can actually assign a default image instead of making it null. So we have that set up. So after that, you have the DB helper setup where you can actually create the employees table. Cool. From here, we head straight to the employee editor where we need to make the bulk of the change. Right there in the employee editor, we declare some fields: the profile image, the pic image, the selector, either photo or capture photo, that's from the camera, a progress dialog, the progress bar status, we have a progress bar handler. Also, we have the bitmap, which is Tumblr bitmap. These are the fields that we'll be using in the course of this application. So right there in the onCreate method, we need to initialize the profile image view, which you have it set this way by calling its appropriate ID. Also, the image button, we also call the ID of the image button. And now we set an on-click listener to that button. Let's get to look at how we get to do that. You need to implement the view on-click listener right there at the top of the class. So once you do that, any button can be triggered with the on-click listener. And at the cost of the on-click listener, you need to override what method? One method, which is the on-click method, which will actually handle the ID of the particular button you set the on-click listener to. So let's continue with the code. So we have to set the on-click listener to the button, and we test for some permission of the camera so that we actually have it enabled. So you select profile image view, you set enable to true when you have the permission set up. So after that, in the save employee, we'll get to look at the save employee later on when you have to actually save the employee, the metadata of all the employee, the name, the title, the department. At the same time, you have to save the profile image as well. We get to look at that when we'll actually talk about how to uh, process the image we get from the employee. So let's get to look at the onClick method. In the onClick method, we need to select an ID, and the ID in question now is the pick image, which is actually the image, the ID of the button to pick the image. Now we instantiate the material dialog, because we actually integrate the material dialog into this. And in the material dialog, this gives us more options where we can actually do a lot of things, like have 4 menus, 3 menus, three actions, or 3, so we have it integrated there. And now we have 3 options. The first option, and any index, we start an array with an index of 0. The first option is to select a photo, and the second one is to actually call the image camera to actually get the photo picture, and the third one is to select no photo. So we have that set up in the case whereby we use an array, the upload images array, to actually depict that. Let's get to look at the array. It's right there in the values. We have the arrays XML where we have the upload images. If you notice, the 0 index, which is the first, is picked from the gallery. The first index, which is 1, is clicked from camera, while the second, or let's say the third item, will be remove image. So these are all depicts with an ID of gallery image, camera image, and remove image. Back to the employee editor. So now we now understand what each case will stand for. So the first case now is 0, which is to select from gallery. We call the photo picture intent. We start an activity for result. So we actually need to undo the callback, which is the start activity for result method. So this time it calls the photo picker, and you select the photo. Cool. This case 1, which will now be to capture. This time we call the intent to the media store, the action image capture. This is actually going to trigger the camera, and you start an activity for result as well, and you capture the photo. Cool. The second, the case 2, which will be the third item here, is by setting an image resource. Probably you don't want an image, so we have a default image instead of it to be blank. So a default image, you actually undo that, whereby we have it from the drawable, the IC account circle black from the vector graphics. So with that, you are done with the onClick method. And now the unrequested permission that was actually declared earlier, this is when you actually set enabled to your profile image. On progress bar, after you might have selected a particular picture, or after you might have taken the picture from the camera, there's going to be a progress to actually process this. This is actually going to run on a thread with a runnable, and actually sleep for a while, so that this is actually going to be sit. The picture is actually going to sit well on the image view that you've declared. So that's the essence of this, and you have that done. Cool. We have the onActivity results, or the callbacks that you've got. We need a result when you select an image from camera, or when you select an image from the gallery. If the request code is the select photo, which is from the gallery, and as well, the request code, the result code must be okay, that it must be successful. So you need a try and catch block here. So whereby we get the image URI from here, and you get the data, which is the intent data, you pass it to the image URI. We declare an image stream object where you get the content resolver. This is actually calling on word. This is calling on the content provider of the image gallery. So that's what that is doing. You can see the image gallery could share content, could share data. That's just like the way you can set up your content provider to share data to other applications. You can see we are using the image, the gallery now, content provider, to access an image. You open the input stream and you pass the image URI as the parameter. Now you have that set. We need to convert that to bitmap. We have an object of the bitmap called selected image. Well, we call the bitmap factory to decode the stream you got, which is the image stream. The process, we set a progress bar. So in the process of actually decoding, there should be a kind of sleep to actually have, so that there will be a time elapsed to actually get that done. So that's the essence of that. And after that, the bitmap will be set to the profile image based on the selected image of the bitmap. Cool. So You catch for an exception, file not found. Probably you didn't find any file. That's the only exception that you can have because you are selecting a particular URI. Now, if the request code is capture photo, which is you are calling the camera intent, you have a result. Okay, we trigger a method called onCapture image results, where you pass the data as a parameter. Let's get to look at that method, onCapture image results. On capture image results, we have a thumbnail, which we set a bitmap thumbnail to actually hold on to the value of the picture. The data, you get the extras, you pass that to the thumbnail, and we also set the progress bar. Now the profile image, you set the maximum width we need, which is 200 dp. You set the image bitmap to the thumbnail, which is to the profile image. You pass in the thumbnail as a parameter, and you set that to the profile image view. You can see even calling a camera intent is much more easier than ever calling a gallery. So that's just how it's been done. With that, the profile image is going to have data. We have value. So at the point in time, you can now call on the save employee method. So we get back to the save employee method over there. So this will trigger when you've actually set up everything you need. You've saved appropriately. Now you can set the drawing catch enabled, which is true. You build the drawing catch. Now we also need a bitmap where you get the drawing catch. You pass that to the bitmap object. After that, you can save a bitmap into the DB just like that. You need to convert it to a byte array. So now we call the byte array output stream. While instantiating that, we created an object called BAOS. We compress the bitmap so that it's actually going to be smaller, and we pass the BAOS as a parameter. Now, the data byte, that's the data object of the byte array, will be set to the BAOS, which is actually going to convert to what? Byte array. We have that, a byte array. So once it's been converted, we have the byte array as what is the value we need to save right there in the DB. You can't save a bitmap, you need to save a byte array. So we converted the bitmap to the byte array. And now if you notice, we have the values over here and we pass the data, which is also a byte, as a parameter. So from there, you can save successfully into the DB. Now as well, if you are editing, we should actually undo that as well, which we have here. If the current employee URI is equals to null, that means this is a new or existing employee. Now else, which you have here, you have it as well. So now it's actually going to know when you are trying to edit. So if you are trying to even edit, it's still the same. And for you to actually make the edit work, you need to call on a loader, which we actually did here on create loader, because we need to set up to the values of the fields when you click a long click on an item to actually edit that particular employee. So now we call on the image. We've added the column image now, so you could easily get back the image, and we have the integer of the image column index, and now you need to extract out the value from the cursor for the given column, which you have here as a byte, and we call the cursor get blob, not get string, not get int, not get double, this get blob. So you have that set up, and you pass in the image column index as a parameter. Now the same way you're going to set it, look at the way we set it. We use the bitmap factory, and you need to decode the byte array, because you can't set an array to an image. You need to convert that to bitmap. So we are not converting the array we got to bitmap. So that's just what we did. And we pass that to BMP, which is the bitmap, and now you set the image bitmap down to the image view. So you have that set up that way. So that's how you do it when you are editing, at the same time when you're saving to the DB. Now one more aspect we need to touch now is the details. We need to actually give a detail of all features of an employee, inclusively with the image. So we need to actually do that. We should understand that by now, because we've been able to actually set the image back when we are editing That's just the same way we go about it. So we just declare an image view over here as a field, and we initialize the image view to call this appropriate ID. After that, in the loader, we need to give a projection of the column of the image, and at the same time, on load finished, we get the integer of the image, cool, right there, and we need to extract out the value of the cursor to a byte array. So now we need to convert from the byte towards to a bitmap. So that's what we actually do here to update the views on the screen with the values from the database, just like the way we did when we are trying to edit the image again. So cool. With this now, you have your application set already. We've been able to integrate the profile image, let's say an employee image, to your employee directory application. So this is a full-blown application, and we've been able to extend more from this. So in the course of subsequent videos, we can easily add other aspects to it. You can see the essence of content provider, the essence of using your Sqlite database, which can be robust. This is a robust approach to any Android application. Set up your content provider, set up your Sqlite database, and you have your application set and ready to access data, to save data, and at the same time to sync to cloud. Thank you guys for hanging out with me throughout this tutorial, and please don't forget to leave comments where appropriate. I'll be there to answer any of your query, and at the same time I'll be uploading the source code to the appropriate link, and I'll be sharing it right there in the description of this video. If you are hitting this video for the first time, I will implore you to actually learn another aspect of the employee directory application. It's a